This is a category 5e cable. This is a category 6 cable. This is a category 7 cable. And this one is a category 8 cable. Now, cables are the enemy, right?
Oh god, the cable management. Oh god.
Don't.
Well, not really, especially if you need speed and you know how to do your cable management. You can check the link below if you want to see how I did it for my desk. Now, what is most important about this cable is to know which cable, what kind of frequency it has, and also the bandwidth of each cable. So cable quality differs from provider to provider. The same is also for cable connectors. For example, this cable, which is from Temu, it doesn't have anything printed regarding the cable details. However, these other cables, which are from EMAG, which is a large distributor within Europe, it has all the details printed on the cable, which is the same situation with the RJ45 connectors of a higher quality, ISO verified, and are from the EMAG distributor, versus the RJ45 connectors from Temu, which have a lower contact surface with the Ethernet port, and it also looks like an alloy between aluminum and copper. Now, since this is a category 5e cable, the max bandwidth for it is 100 MHz and it has a speed of 1 gigabit per second. Now, what is a gigabit and why it's not a gigabyte? Now, a gigabit, it's a factor 8 of a gigabyte. And if you have a cable which transfers 1 gigabit per second, then you will be able to download 125 megabytes per second or around 120 megabytes per second. So 1 gigabit does not equal 1 gigabyte. In the same time, the category 6 cables have a 250 megahertz frequency rate, and if the cable is under 50 meters long, then the transfer rate is around 10 gigabits per second, and if it goes over 100 meters long, then it goes down automatically to 1 gigabit per second. Now we also have category 7 cables, which if they are under 100 meters long, they have a transfer rate of 10 gigabits per second, and they have a frequency of 600 megahertz. And we also have category 8 cables, which are really expensive. They have a transfer rate of 40 gigabits per second, and they are used in industrial centers, especially when you're talking about AI data centers.
Nice.
Also, the frequency rate is around 2000 megahertz, which is really high. Now, you also need to understand that these cables are really useful if you have a contract with your internet provider around 10 gigabits per second, especially if we are talking about cables which are of 10 gigabits per second, so the category 7. However, even if you have 10 gigabits per second cables in your network, Netflix also limits their bandwidth speed, which means that you will not be able to see movies of a speed of 1 gigabyte per second, even if you have the right contract with the internet provider. Now, you also need to understand that the lower the category, also the lower the protection on the cables. For example, this is a UTP cable, is the lowest cost, which also means it doesn't have any shielding in it, and it's specially used in home setups. Then we also have category 6, and this is a FTP cable, which also means it has a lower flexibility, the cost goes a bit up, and at the same time needs grounding for the best results. Now, this cable, which is the category 7, it's also very expensive, and it has foil on pairs and also braided, so it has a lot of shielding. It also has a low flexibility, which also means it offers protection against data corruption and also any kind of interference. So these cables are great in industrial use and also in very crowded offices. Now, for example, if you have 2 cables of 5 meters long and they're not long enough to create the network around your house, then you can actually buy this kind of adapter, this coupler, which is a RJ45 coupler, and they're also on categories. For example, this is a category 5e, which is the lowest, but in the same time, you can also find these higher value category 7 couplers, and they also RJ45. Now, in order to create a network in your house, you also need a switch, which you can connect to your router. Now, this switch doesn't have a dedicated WAN port, and usually choose one of the ports which are at the end of the switch. And this is a duplex switch, and it has a routing capacity of 10 gigabits per second, which means it can download and upload in the same time on one port 1 gigabit per second. So in this specific case, let's say you have a category 7 cable which you connect to your router, and in all the other ports you can connect your laptop, for example, and 3 other devices, and you will have a routing inside of 10 gigabits per second if your provider allows it, and you have a contract for 10 gigabits per second. However, because I have a port installed in my wall, and that's also because I asked my apartment builder to place category 7 cables in the wall, which also means I can upgrade to 10 gigabits and 5-meter cable is long enough from my port to my switch.
Yeah, boy.
However, for a normal household, that's a bit of overkill unless you're hosting a website which has a really high traffic. And that's also what you should do if you are buying a new apartment. Make sure that you have high quality cables for your Ethernet network in your house. Now, which cables should you buy and what length? I personally choose 5 meters long flat category 7 cables because they are easy to hide under a carpet. Now you also know that this is a high quality cable if it's a bare coupled cable. If it has any kind of mixture of aluminum, that's really bad. Now another thing you need to check is the AVG, which is on the back, and the lower is the number the better. The AVG actually tells you the thickness of the copper inside, and the lower the number the better. In this specific case, if the number is really high, you need to choose a lower length cable, which means that if the cable is under 50 meters long, it's no problem. The cable will still keep the quality of the frequency and the bandwidth. Now, in the same time, if you ask me why I need all these cables and also the switch, it's because I'm connecting together all my devices. My personal laptop, the workstation which I have over here, which also has a NAS included and a local AI, which I also need on my network. And in the same time, I will connect these Dell Optiplex 7070s and also a Optiplex 3040, on which I will host a movie streaming series with Jellyfin on Ubuntu. Now, on the mini PCs, I will install Linux server in order to have multiple nodes, and I will be able to control them headlessly with SSH with my laptop or my workstation. And all these devices connected together will be my home mini lab in order to have multiple facilities with a really low cost.
Sensational.
Now, if you want to see how I will actually build this home lab, please click close.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Now, that's all from my side today. If you enjoyed this video, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Again, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and share it with your friends. See you on the next one.